Well, for a critical appraisal of race to the top and the Obama administration's approach to education reform, we're joined by a woman who's long been known as an advocate of No Child Left Behind, charter schools, standardized testing, and using the free market to improve schools. But she's had a radical change of heart in recent years. I'm talking about the influential education scholar Diane Ravitch. She was Assistant Secretary of Education and Counselor to Education Secretary Lamar Alexander under President George H.W. Bush, and appointed to the National Assessment Governing Board under President Clinton. She's the author of over 20 books. She's Research Professor of Education at New York University and a Senior Fellow at the Brookings Institution. Her latest book chronicles how and why she decided to break with the conservative education policies she once championed. It's called The Death and Life of the Great American School System, How Testing and Choice Are Undermining Education. Diane Ravitch, welcome to Democracy Now! With this latest news, what is your assessment of where we are going under the Obama administration?
Well, unfortunately, the Obama administration has adopted and is building on the foundation of No Child Left Behind. And as I explain in this book, I believe that No Child Left Behind has been a failed policy, that it's dumbed down the curriculum, narrowed the curriculum. Kids are being denied a full education because so much time is being spent on test prep and on tests that are really not very good tests, and in some cases even fraudulent scoring of the test. That the kids are getting a worse education as a result of No Child Left Behind. The Obama administration, however, has bought into this rhetoric of accountability and choice, and they're actually taking the Bush policies to a greater extreme. There is more support from the administration, this administration, for choice because they have no opposition in the Congress, because it's a Democratic president, and because they had all this money, this $5 billion to use as play money with no authorization, no oversight from Congress. They've said to the states in the race to the top, this competition that was just held, that the requirements to be considered are, first of all, that the states have to be committed to privatizing many, many, many public schools. These are called charter schools. They're privatized schools. The Bush administration would have never gotten away with that because Congress would have stopped them. They've also required states to commit to evaluating teachers by the test scores of their students, which means that that'll put even more emphasis on standardized testing, more drill down of test prep, more emphasis on basic skills. And also it's a very unfair measure because it means that the students who live in poor communities, that they're likely to get small gains, whereas the kids in the affluent communities will get big gains. And so we'll see the third emphasis of the Obama plan, which is close low-performing schools. And Obama has said that he wants to see 5,000 low-performing schools transformed or closed, as we saw just recently on Rhode Island, where the only high school in a desperately poor community is supposed to fire all the teachers, close the school. And I think this is a terrible thing for public education. I think we're going to see a devastation of public education over the next, however long this president is in office, unless he changes course, which I hope he will, and doubt that he will.
Diane Ravitch, what caused your change of heart?
Many things. But having been castigated as a conservative for believing in having a traditional curriculum, when I went into the Bush administration, I found myself, kind of getting caught up in the choice rhetoric. And so for about 10 years or so, I was advocating for charter schools. They didn't exist, so I didn't know how things would turn out. Over the years, from the period in which charters started and in which the whole accountability movement started, I began looking at the results. When I looked at No Child Left Behind and saw, we're not really making any improvements under No Child Left Behind. The test scores have been either stagnant or made tiny improvement. Actually, the gains before No Child Left Behind on national tests were larger than since No Child Left Behind was adopted. I mean, I looked at the evidence, and I thought, all these things that I hoped would work didn't work. And now I find myself castigated. First of all, I'm castigated by people on the right who say, you were never a real conservative. Of course, they're right. I never was a real conservative. But people on the left are saying, you had your hand in this stuff. How dare you change sides? Well, I guess the answer is, look at the evidence. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm just trying to say the evidence says No Child Left Behind was a failure. And the evidence says that charter schools are going to lead us into a swamp of well, first of all, they're not going to be any better. Because if you look at national test scores, charter schools were first part of the national test in 2003. They didn't do any better than regular public schools. They were tested again in 2005, 2007, 2009. They have never outperformed regular public schools.